there's so many reboots that are made without passion or care. In today's video, I'm going to show you what happens when you make a reboot with passion and care, while also making it stand on its own 2 feet and making it unique in the proper way without just changing the color of a character's skin or completely changing their personality. This is how you be unique the right way. This is a review of Transformers Animated. Now, before we get into the review proper, I want to talk about my history with the franchise, because I just want to share some funny stories and my thoughts on the franchise. Transformers was probably the first big nerd franchise I got into. I mean, man, I used to watch it so much when I was little, my dad literally banned me from watching it. And not only that, I named one of my daddy's Jeeps Trailbreaker. So yeah, that should show you how deep I was into this fandom. And one time, I remember, I got to skip homework and watch Transformers with my dad because he came home from the boat and my dad wasn't always around because being on the boat in that particular job means he had to be gone for months at a time. And man, that was one of the coolest moments, getting to watch Transformers with my dad. I remember I wasn't even sitting in a chair. I was just laying on the floor next to my dad watching some good old G1s. And I also have a story about Transformers Animated, which is the particular version of Transformers we're reviewing today. I was watching the episode Megatron Rising back when it first came out, and I remember the signal for the TV went out, and my dad blamed it on the Decepticons, and I believed him. Although my dad is really the one that deceived me, so technically, does that make him a Decepticon since he deceived me? Do you guys think my dad is a Decepticon? Comment your theories down below. And while this memory doesn't pertain to my dad necessarily, I do remember going to see Age of Extinction with my grandma, and that movie sucked. It was a really bad movie, but at least I got to have that fun memory with my grandma. But I did get to go see one really good movie with my grandma when we got to go see SpongeBob the Sponge Out of Water when it came out. That was a really good movie, and I also thought Cars 3 was pretty good. I mean, it was better than Cars 2, certainly, but anyway, I just wanted to share those memories. Do you guys have any fun memories of you guys going to the theaters to see any movies? I remember when we went to see Cars 3 specifically, my little cousin constantly had to go to the bathroom for some reason. That's what happens when you drink 2 large sodas. One more thing, I want to circle back to talk about Age of Extinction real quick. They had Lockdown in that movie, which Lockdown originally appeared in Transformers Animated, and that version of Lockdown, the one that was in Transformers Age of Extinction, he sucked, man. He didn't even have the cool sports car mode with the spikes sticking out, and his design was nowhere near as cool. Also, he didn't have the big chin, which makes me really mad. Point is, that Lockdown sucked. I mean, come on, he just looks like Ultron except more buff, like he's on gear. Like, brother, you're made of gears. You know, that's enough ranting about Age of Extinction, even though I could go on about that for hours. Let's actually get to what you came here for, the review of Transformers Animated. The first thing I want to talk about is the intro. Now, the American intro is good. It's basically the original version of the theme song, but slightly different with some different visuals. But the Japanese intro, oh my gosh, you guys want to hear it. This right here is peak fiction. Look at this opening. It's all original animation. No, these aren't clips from the show. They animated all this completely for the opening, and it's even higher quality than the show itself. Not to mention the absolute banging intro. Like, the American one is good, but the American one does not hold a candle to this absolute masterpiece. I can't believe we got a Transformers anime opening before we got GTA 6. Crazy, bro. But yeah, this intro is hype as heck. I'm not going to show any more footage from the intro or probably the show itself, just images, because I'm afraid of getting copyrighted, because copyright is really annoying and it's very difficult to fight. But my point is, this intro is just amazing. I mean, dead gum. That's one thing I will say about Japan. Regardless what your opinions on the state of modern anime are, whether or not you're a classic anime guy like me, or if you're a modern anime guy, you can say one thing about Japan. They cook with their intros. I just wish I could say the same thing about Western cartoons. Western cartoons' intros have gone severely downhill in terms of quality. Like, I haven't seen a banging opening for a Western cartoon in years. But to be fair, I haven't seen a banging Western cartoon in years either. So, yeah. Western cartoons are severely going downhill, and hopefully one day that'll change if Cartoon Network ever gets saddled back and gets back to its normal self, or Nickelodeon starts promoting new shows. But my point is, we need banging intros to come back to Western cartoons, but I give my hats off to you, Japan, for going the extra mile to get the bands that composed that theme song and all the original animation. It truly is a masterpiece. Now I want to talk about something different. Let's talk about the animation and art style of this show. I love it, especially in a time where all the animated cartoons seem to have the Cal art style. It really makes you appreciate how unique this art style is. Like, you'll never get this specific Transformer show confused with any of the other Transformer shows because of all the unique designs. They're unique, but yet they're still faithful to the G1 designs in a way that's just amazing. Like, almost all of the characters look very similar to their G1 counterparts, except for Prowl, but that's because Prowl is a completely different character. But I'm okay with that, because Ninja Prowl is way cooler than G1 Prowl. Like, seriously, can you remember any cool G1 Prowl moments? The answer is no, you can't, because, let's be honest, G1 Prowl was kind of lame. I mean, bro was basically just Blue Streak, but painted a different color. But my point is, I really enjoy this unique art style. The art style was done by art director Derek J. White. Well, it wasn't done by him, but he was the guy that, directed the art style. Hence the name art director Derek J. Wyatt. Sorry for the stutter there. But unfortunately, he passed away. Now, he did work on Ben 10 Omniverse, so this show shares a very similar art style to Ben 10 Omniverse. But my point is, I really love it. I like it. It's unique, but it's still faithful to the original characters and to the show, and it really captures the G1 feel, especially Megatron's design. I really love Megatron's design. And again, like I was saying earlier, in a world where almost every cartoon uses the same Cal art style, it's so refreshing to see something different and unique. It's like an orgasm for your eyeballs. I don't know how to explain it, but I just enjoy all the unique traits in this show, like the incredibly oversized chins, like I mentioned with Lockdown. Point is, I really like this show. So I just realized something, and I feel kind of stupid. I just realized why this show is called Transformers Animated. It's because it has the most animated and unique art style. I feel stupid for not realizing that sooner. I cannot express how dumb I feel for not putting those two dots together until now. And I binge watched the show like 3 times. Great job, Tyler. That really shows how smart you are. But my point is, overall, I just really love this art style, and to you, Mr. Art Director Derek J. Wyatt, you will be missed. I may not know you or any of the other stuff you did besides Transformers and Ben 10 Omniverse, but I did enjoy the art style and the cool and unique stuff you helped make. But now let's move on to talking about the plot of this show. The plot is a bit different than most Transformers shows. For example, the Autobots are space bridge repairmen instead of war-grizzled soldiers. But that's the point. They're inexperienced warriors who get sent to Earth, and then the Decepticons find them, and then it causes a lot of problems. That's one thing I really like about this show. The fact that the Autobots are inexperienced fighters. That really makes the show have more tension instead of hard, grizzled war veterans. You get to watch them grow and develop in a way that other Transformers shows I haven't really seen done. Now, they kind of did do something similar in Transformers 1, but to be fair, Transformers Animated came out first, so it lays claim to the title of the Autobots not being hard, grizzled war soldiers first. Now, Beast Wars did do something different where they were explorers and they were animals, but I think this show handled it a lot better. Now, I know that's going to tick off some of the Beast Wars fans because they were quite hardcore into Beast Wars, and while I do enjoy Beast Wars, I think this show is the peak of Transformers. And I know that's also going to tick off some Transformers Prime shows, but I'm just gonna say it. Transformers Prime is mid at best. I mean, I'm sorry, but it has to be said. But one of the things, as I was saying earlier, that I really like about this show is it's really interesting to watch the Autobots grow and develop and become the people that we know they're going to be, and it adds to a lot of character development, especially Optimus, because one of my biggest problems with some Transformer shows is they try to make Optimus this boring character where he's always so stoic to the point where he's extremely boring. And that's part of the reason why I think Transformers Prime fails significantly. For a show called Transformers Prime, they really don't give very much focus on Prime himself. And I don't get why they have to give him this super stoic personality, because in G1, Optimus would make jokes all the time. So I'm really glad that this particular version of Prime was brought back for animated. And plus, it just makes his character arc so much more satisfying when he fully embraces his role as a Prime. It just makes the show work better narratively, because one of the key points of making a good narrative is making your character go from a zero to a hero when you're writing a superhero story, if you get what I'm saying. My point is, I'm getting really tired of stoic Optimus, and I really wish they would bring back the Optimus that would crack jokes every once in a while. It just makes it so much more interesting than these boring stoic characters. In fact, in my opinion, this might seem like an odd comparison, but I think you should write Optimus close to how you should write Superman. They're both fatherly and strong characters, but they both shouldn't be afraid to crack a joke once in a while. In my opinion, that's how I think you should write Optimus. And that's how this show writes him too, which I think is really good. Also, I think his rivalry with Sentinel is amazing. But anyway, I just really like all the unique takes on the characters. Like, I love the fact that Bulkhead is literally a hillbilly that is ingenious when it comes to space bridges. That is such a unique and fun idea. And this Bulkhead is so much more entertaining than the one we have in Transformers Prime. The one we have in Transformers Prime is basically just, I'm a wrecker type guy. We don't really get anything interesting about him, but with the animated Bulkhead, we get lots of interesting things. We get to know he's good at space bridge repair. We get to see how he forged his friendship with Bumblebee, which, by the way, his friendship with Bumblebee is awesome, and I just really enjoy it. And I really hope they bring back Hillbilly Bulkhead, because I find the idea really funny of them being space hillbillies. But I also might find it extra funny because I'm from Arkansas myself, and that's a hillbilly state, so I might just find the idea of space hillbilly was really funny. And I like Ratchet's whole PTSD arc. He's basically a grumpy old man, just like he was in Transformers Prime, but at least in Transformers Animated, they kind of explain why he's grumpy with his whole backstory with RC and Lockdown, and I think they handled the whole grumpy Ratchet thing so much better. And as for Bumblebee, oh my gosh, Bumblebee is an actual character instead of just wow, 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 beep, beep, beep. Seriously, I hate how every single show or piece of media after the Michael Bay movies have made Bumblebee into this beeping chatter, into this just beeping machine. I don't like the stupid beeping chatter machine. I like Bumblebee to be the, jokey personality of the team, because I'm always a fan of the jokey characters in TV shows. That's part of the reason why I love Michelangelo in Ninja Turtles. And so it really bothers me when they try to make Bumblebee just this beeping machine. So I'm glad they brought back joking Bumblebee, because the joking characters are usually my favorite. And like I said, I think they gave Prowl's whole unique ninja thing cool. The idea of a cyber ninja is dope. So whoever came up with that, you did a really good job. And I just think that what they did with these characters was really unique and interesting. And especially Bumblebee, because as I was saying earlier, I really hate the whole beeping talk to the radio thing. It's just so overdone at this point. Am I the only one that likes it when Bumblebee talks more? Because it just makes him feel like he has so much more personality. Same thing with Prime. In fact, that's one thing I really will say about this show. The personality in this show shines through in everything it does, whether it's the animation or the characters themselves. In fact, this particular group of Autobots, they're the ones that feel like the most like a family to me. And that's what I think the Autobots should feel like, a family. because that was one of the problems with G1. There was so many Autobots, especially when Season 2 happened, and they just randomly introduced Autobots without explaining it. We barely got that many focus episodes, and with most of the other shows, we don't really get to dive into the whole family dynamic, but in this show, they really feel like a family. You have Bumblebee being the goofy little brother, you have Optimus trying to be the dad, basically, and you have Ratchet feeling like the grumpy grandpa. In this show, they really feel like a family, which I really like, because I think that's how you should write your team of Autobots. In fact, I think every team in a TV show should feel like a family. So, that's my hot take. I think the Autobots should really focus on the family side of things, especially when you get to see the Autobots do other stuff like watching TV. I mean, sure, we get some stuff in other shows, like when Bulkhead in Transformers Prime, it's revealed that he likes to watch monster truck stuff, but the stuff in Transformers Animated where they're watching TV is so much more interesting, like their comedic reactions when they turn on the TV and they see all the cars crashing into each other and all the stuff being done with like the gas pump. I mean, that's just so much more interesting. Or the fact that Bulkhead transformed part of his body into a couch, or the fact that they drink oil on Christmas, which, again, that just adds so much more personality to the characters, or the fact they went trick-or-treating. Seriously, the one where they go trick-or-treating is one of the best episodes in the entire show, because the whole dark plot of Optimus dealing with the guilt of leaving Elita 1 behind and her becoming Arachnid was really interesting, and man, I really wish they would adapt that origin more in Transformers media. She's so much more interesting than the Arachnid we got in Transformers Prime, because at least this one has a backstory and a cool relationship with Optimus Prime, and her flirty dynamic is entertaining, and Cree Summers does a really good voice for her, and I just think it adds so much more to the dynamic watching Optimus battle his villain that came back from the past to haunt him. I think it's a really good idea. Oh, and one other thing, like I was saying, the whole trick-or-treating subplot is hilarious. And the fact that Bulkhead dressed up as a ghost, but he used a fumigation tent, I mean, seriously, that is hilarious. I just want more of the Autobots doing that. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way, but I just want more of the Autobots adapting to Earth and feeling like a family, because I just enjoy shows where you can really feel the family vibes. That's part of the reason why I like King of the Hill. I know that's an odd comparison, but I'm just a guy that loves family vibes in his TV shows and books. And like I was saying, I feel like the family vibe really helps it. Again, I'm going to compare it to Superman. I think my personal favorite Superman run is Superman Rebirth, because it really focuses on the family side of Superman, and it humanizes them in a way. And I think that's part of the reason why I love superhero shows when they tackle with more like a family type vibe. It just humanizes them in a way that I just enjoy. Same thing applies to the Transformers. I also like Superman and Lois, and I think it is the best live action Superman we have ever received. I know some people might take that as a hot take, but in my opinion that's truly what it is. But the more family vibes that this particular version of Transformers gives off really helps it in my opinion. Again, I'm going to make another comparison to another superhero show, Dragon Ball. Again, Dragon Ball Super may not be that good of a show most of the time. I admit, a good majority of Dragon Ball Super is trash, but the slice of life family type episodes are really good. And again, I just really feel like we should put more focused family vibes in our superhero slash non-fiction or fiction action shows. I almost said non-fiction. Yeah, bro, Transformers is totally real. Although those CGI in the Michael Bay films, those films could actually make you believe those Transformers are real. But my point is, I just really hope we get more of these family type vibes in other action shows. And I just really hope we get the type of feeling that I got from Animated and other Transformers pieces of media. And if you need another example as to why I love this show, just look at the scene where Optimus finds out about the Dinobots still being alive, and then Bulkhead and Prowl have to tell him, and he gets angry, and then you can see Bulkhead subtly backing away, and then you can hear the truck ramping up noise. That is just an amazing scene. That is how you do Optimus getting angry. You have him getting angry like a dad, not like this angry, violent person that we've seen in the Bay movies. You have him getting angry like a dad, and that's just one of the reasons why I love this show, because it knew where to put its comedy, but it also wasn't so focused on comedy it couldn't tell a serious story. This show could balance its tone of seriousness and comedy very well. And unlike some other things I've mentioned recently on this channel, it didn't try to put its seriousness and comediness in the same scene. Cough, 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 James Gunn. Another thing I really like about this show is the fact that the Autobots do way more than just fight Decepticons. There's scenes where they put out fires, stop bank robbers, go to pick pumpkins. That just adds so much more to the characters, in my opinion. And the human characters in this show are so much better than the human characters in the other shows. For example, Sorry is the best human character we've seen in any Transformers show ever. Most of the human characters just suck, especially Miko in Transformers Prime. She's awful, annoying, arrogant, and stupid. Now, granted, Sorry is kind of dumb, but that makes sense because she's like 8 years old. But Miko is like 16. At this point, you should know not to get in the way of a bunch of giant robots causing trouble. But at least Sorry has the whole defense of being 8. Oh, and another thing I really like about her character specifically is that it's revealed that she's part Cybertronian and that her key allows her to heal the Autobots. It just makes her actually feel useful. And that's one of the problems I have with the human characters in Transformers. They feel useless. And the thing is, you can make human characters in Transformers work. In fact, I actually think human characters in Transformers should be necessary if they're written well, because it's fun to watch the humans teach the Transformers about Earth. So, yes, you should put human characters in Transformers. You just need to make them specifically useful and give them interesting personalities that allow them to bounce off the Autobots well, and due to Sorry's childish nature, it allows her to bounce off Bumblebee really well, and she has a really fun dynamic with Bumblebee, and plus Tara Strong delivers a really good voice performance. And plus the joke about her name being Sorry, and then Bumblebee saying, "I'm sorry to hear that," or whatever he said when he met Sorry, that's really funny. And then the whole twist of her being a robot, that just adds so much more depth. So if you're going to write human characters, I suggest you write them like they write Sorry, and just make them more interesting, because that's the big problem with humans in Transformers shows. It's not the fact that the idea of having humans in Transformers shows is bad, it's just that she particularly sucks. Now, there are a few other good human characters in Transformers shows, like Agent Fowler in Transformers Prime. Seriously, I love that guy, especially when he says, "What's a fusor?" Like, seriously, I quote that a lot. That is like one of the few things I can remember from Transformers Prime is Agent Fowler going, "What's a fusor?" But you also have other characters that are really good in Transformers Animated, like Captain Fanzone. He's really entertaining. He's also grumpy, which makes the episode where they team up with Ratchet a really good pairing and dynamic. My point is, they need to take more care into writing their human characters when they do the Transformers shows, and I just feel like it's very interesting watching them bounce off each other. And I think this show really handles the humans better than any of the other Transformers shows have, at least the ones I've seen. I haven't seen every single Transformers show, but I've seen a good majority of them. And by the way, when I say I haven't seen every single one, I mean the modern ones like Cyberverse and that other one that came out. I can't remember the name. I haven't seen most of the modern stuff. But yeah, I'm just really glad that they show the Autobots doing some superhero stuff. It really adds so much more to their character, in my opinion. And watching the Autobots attend like fair stuff with the humans, I think it adds to the character watching the Autobots become part of the cities and basically becoming micro-celebrities. And I really wish they would adapt that part in the media more and try to write Transformers more like a superhero show, because, in my opinion, that's what it is. It is a superhero show, and I don't know why they don't do that. Also, another thing I really like about this show specifically is that they give the characters more villains. Like I was saying just mere moments ago with my whole superhero show point, they give the characters a rogues gallery. And sure, some of the villains do suck. I will admit, some of the human villains do kind of suck, but there are some I really do like. like Meltdown. I think Meltdown is really cool. Or that little short guy that gets really strong. He kind of reminds me of Bane. My point is, I really wish they would do that in other Transformers shows, where they would add more human villains. Well, actually, they don't necessarily have to be human. They just have to be different villains than the Decepticons. It makes the Decepticons showing up feel way more special if we have different villains. Like, seriously, they need to add more villains to the Transformers Rogues Gallery because it's seriously lacking. You could have villains that are aliens from other planets, like, I don't know, an alien that can control magnetical powers or something. You know what I mean? He has, like, magnetic powers. I mean, they kind of had a villain, a human villain in Transformers Prime, but Mech was really boring. I mean, the only thing I can remember about Mech is the fact that they just straight up slaughtered Breakdown and made Frankenstein, and that the guy that was the leader of Mech was voiced by Mr. Krabs. But my point is, they really need to add more villains to the Transformers Rogues Gallery, because it really does need more than just the Decepticons and the Quintessons. Am I the only one that feels that way about that? Because I just feel like adding more villains and more types of aliens and more species to the Transformers universe adds so much more character to the show. And I think we really should add more villains and more characters to the Transformers mythos because, like I was saying, writing it more like a superhero show really does benefit it. And you can especially tell that when you notice that some of the writers on this show also wrote Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2003 and a bunch of other action shows and superhero type shows. And I'm really glad that they did because those are the type of people that need to be handling the Transformers franchise. And I hope in later incarnations of the Transformers we get more villains that aren't just Cybertronians. You can add so many other cool alien concepts. Like, I could think of a whole bunch of concepts and ideas for aliens you could use against the Transformers that aren't just the same Cybertronians over and over. Because it feels like the only two villains they'll use are the Decepticons and the Quintessons. Am I the only one that feels that way? And I think we just need more heroes and more villains in the show. It just adds so much more depth when we get to see different villains. Now again, some of the villains don't work, like that little girl that shouted the princess words, but hey, she's supposed to be a joke villain, so it kind of works. But my point is, I really think we should add more villains to the Rogues Gallery. Am I the only one that feels that way? Comment down below if you agree with me that we should add more villains to the Transformers Rogues Gallery. Like, seriously, Transformers is one of the biggest superhero franchises ever. Like, seriously, and the fact they don't have a Rogues Gallery besides the Decepticons is crazy to me. Like, literally, almost every superhero show has a Rogues Gallery. Batman has Joker, Poison Ivy, Two-Face. Superman has the Parasite, Lobo, Lex Luthor, Toyman, Livewire, Silver Banshee, Bloodthirst, Bloodsport, and so many other characters, and the fact that the Transformers don't have a Rogues Gallery is just extremely baffling to me. Am I the only one that feels this way? Again, even though I just said this earlier, please leave your thoughts on adding more villains to the Transformers Rogues Gallery in the comments below. I mean, it would just be really interesting to see the universe get expanded and add more villains, whether it's metahumans that have powers like they did animated, or just have other alien races show up besides the two alien races we usually see in Transformers, because there's so many cool things you could do, like giving people magnetic powers, or I don't know, making some sort of vampire type alien creature that sucks down the energon. They kind of did that with Arachnid, but you know, you can make like a whole entire species of vampire predator type things, and you could give them a really cool personality, and they could hunt Autobots or something. Again, I'm just spitballing ideas, but I really like the idea that the fact that they just have more villains than just, oh, another Decepticon, woo. It really adds to the variety of the show, and it makes it feel more special when the Decepticons finally do show up. To continue leeching off my superhero point from earlier, I really like the fact that they gave the Autobots unique abilities. It also helps separate their characters and really show how unique this show is by giving them cool powers, like Ratchet having magnetic powers and being able to generate EMPs. It's a cool, unique ability, and I really wish they would adapt the whole giving the Autobots unique abilities into other shows, because like I said, it also helps us differentiate the characters as well, and I think the abilities really show off their personality. like how Bumblebee's ability is stingers. But now I want to move on to some other talking points, and I want to talk about the Decepticons. The Decepticons in this show are great, just like the Autobots. Except they're not as much of a family as the Autobots, to be expected. They're a bunch of evil idiots. And, well, they're not necessarily idiots, but most of them are. Especially Lugnut. Seriously, Lugnut is a Megatron simp. But he is hilarious, because that dude is more devoted to Megatron than Pokimane simps. Because, I mean, oh my goodness, that dude is devoted. And then you have Blitzwing, who has this really split personality type deal, and he's usually paired up with Lugnut, and man, it's the best comedic duo in the entire show. Well, actually, I think it might be the second best, because I still like Bumblebee and Bulkhead. But man, Lugnut and Blitzwing, that's just one heck of a duo. Way better than Breakdown and Knockout or in Transformers Prime. So yeah, again, I just really enjoy them bouncing off each other. It's another example of how good the comedy is in this show. Especially when Megatron first shows up, and then everyone thinks he's going nuts, but then it turns out Megatron was real. Also, another thing I really like about this show is that when Megatron is revived, he immediately kills Starscream, which makes this Megatron seem way more threatening than the other versions of Megatron. Because the other versions of Megatron always seem to let Starscream live, but no, this dude bombs him, like literally bombs him, and the only reason he's alive is because Starscream becomes a ghost, and then Megatron keeps slaughtering over and over because he keeps coming back as a ghost. And again, another thing I want to say is, when the Decepticons do show up, it really feels bad. Like, you feel like the world's going to end because, you know, with these particular versions of the Decepticons, they're war-hardened. They're much stronger than the Autobots in this particular continuity because, like I was saying, the Autobots are nothing but a bunch of space bridge repair workers, so it really makes you feel the beating that they're laying on the Autobots, especially when Megatron shows up and absolutely kicks their butt, and especially with Corey Burton delivering such a sick Megatron voice. Seriously, I know some people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but I think Corey Burton might have the best Megatron voice besides G1 Megatron. I really love Corey Burton's voice, and I love G1's Megatron voice for that Frank Walker did, but overall, I just really enjoy the fact that the Decepticons really feel like a threat. When they show up, you know it's about to hit the fan, man. And Bumblebee roasting Lugnut was hilarious. And I just really wish they would take the Decepticons more seriously like this in other shows, because man, it just really adds to the feeling of dread that you get. And that's another reason that makes this show unique. You really feel the dread. I can't think of any other show where it's just like, oh, the Decepticons are here, I should be afraid, because they always show up, like I was mentioning in my other points a few minutes ago about adding more villains to the Rogues Gallery. It really makes it feel special when they do show up. And the dynamic that they have is great. Like Lugnut and Blitzwing, as I mentioned earlier, or Megatron constantly killing Ghost Starscream, or the fact that Starscream is voiced by Tom Kenny, which is the voice of SpongeBob, and Bulkhead is voiced by Patrick's voice actor Bill Fingerbocke. Seriously, Bill Fingerbocke has great comedic timing along with Tom Kenny, and I just wanted to point that out. Overall, I really think that's what makes this show work. It's the dynamic between the characters and the personalities just really oozing off them. Compared to all the other Autobot shows, or Transformer shows, sorry, I said Autobot for some reason, they just really bounce off each other well in a way I can't explain like the other shows do. I mean, the other shows have the Autobots bouncing off each other, but not in the same way as they do in this show. They just bounce off each other perfectly, along with the Decepticons, and I think that is one of the main reasons why I love this show. And then you have other really cool characters like Lockdown. Like, Lockdown is just like non-part of the faction type. Like, he's not a part of the Autobots or Decepticons, he's his own faction, and he's his really cool bounty hunter with spikes, and he's got an Australian accent, or it kind of sounds Australian. Point is, it's really cool. Oh, and something else is, I really like Omega Supreme being a weapon and dealing with that. I think that was a really cool backstory. In fact, I find it kind of cool or kind of funny that G1 gave Omega Supreme a backstory episode when they hardly ever give backstory episodes to anyone. But I still like the animated version of the backstory better that we see in Transformers anime. Overall, I just think that's what makes this show work. It's the uniqueness, but it's unique in all the right ways. Because they try to adapt Transformers as more of a superhero type western show, and I really think that's the angle they need to take when they adapt it in future adaptations. And again, I also really think they need to take the angle of family and putting more villains in the rogues gallery, because it just makes it feel extra special in the Decepticon shows. Because when Megatron lays you out in this show, you feel it. Because in other shows, Megatron's always fighting, and you're like, seriously, how did the war go on this long if it's such a stalemate? Because, oh my goodness, Optimus be laying out Megatron all the time. But in this show, Megatron lays them out all the time, so it makes sense why the Autobots struggle. And struggle is one of the key parts of a hero's journey, and that's one of the things that elevates it above other Transformers shows, in my opinion. Overall, I really think animated is the best adaptation of Transformers because it's unique in all the right ways, and it does things differently, but it does things differently in the right ways, as I've been mentioning for the past few minutes. It gives us different villains, a unique and memorable art style, good comedic writing, witty banter, and they just bounce off each other really well, has really good voice acting, and when the bad guys show up, you're like, dang man, Megatron's here? Oh no. You get scared. And it just really adds to the whole show itself and the vibes and the atmosphere on the Decepticon show in a way no other Transformers show can replicate, at least for me personally. And I really hope that future Transformers adaptations take pages out of animated by giving the Autobots powers and just trying something different while also being faithful to the show. Because us fans, we don't mind different stuff in our shows, but we want the changes to have reasons. That's the reason why people get mad at the Silver Surfer being a girl. Sure, technically, her being a girl, technically there was a girl Silver Surfer in the comics, but we all know that the only reason they changed her to be a girl was to appease gender quotas. They didn't change her to be a girl because they were really interested in writing the story about the Silver Surfer's wife, and that's the real reason why we don't like it. It's because they're not interested in writing these characters. They're just doing it because, oh, this one's a girl and we need an extra female member. That's the problem. So again, this show shows you how to reboot in the proper way. It's very different than the original series and any other Transformers series that came before it or after it, but it does it well because you know why? At the end of the day, the people writing this show care about Transformers and they want to make a good show. That's all we want. We don't care if the show has different things. We just want it to feel like Transformers or feel like He-Man. That was the problem with He-Man's Revelations or He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Revelations. It didn't feel like He-Man. It felt like a Teela show. We want our shows to feel like what they're supposed to feel like and not some weird, strange amalgamation of the two. It's okay to be different, but at the end of the day, you still need to have the spirit of what made your franchise great. And that's why people get mad at reboots that don't work, because that spirit is gone. That's why the female Ghostbusters failed, because it wasn't the same. My point is, if you're going to make a reboot, you need to take a page out of Transformers Animated and make it different, but at the end of the day, you still need to have the same heart and soul, or spark, if that's what you want to call it, that made the show great. Overall, this show is fantastic, and I think it is the peak of Transformers media.